Hello and welcome to the Understanding Narcissists YouTube channel. This video is going to be a bit different because it's going to be about how we learn about narcissism, and in particular, how we teach narcissism to others. And how that reflects on what we think of narcissists and how we treat them, how we respect them or disrespect them as human beings. Now, this comes from some questions I've been getting over the course of, I think, this entire channel's existence. It doesn't pop up that often, but it's pretty consistent when it does pop up. It has to do with how you teach narcissism and how you approach narcissism in helping others with it. Now, naturally, you think that would be primarily the concern of people like me who are talking about it, or other YouTube channels, or authors, or people who are writing articles, whatever, any kind of pedagogical material regarding narcissism. And the chief issue, or really the chief question that I posed is, what is the difference between taking a very personal approach to it versus a more formal approach? And why do some people opt for a personal approach and less for the formal approach? And there's like, as soon as I got that question, especially somebody asked me that, and it was kind of more sophisticated than the previous questions. It was relatively long and detailed, and so like 10 things popped into my head, because narcissism is complicated, and so the nature of that question of how we relate to it is complicated, and then how we teach it. Of course, it's personal and it's kind of formal in itself. The first thing I want to say is that I'm not super familiar with other YouTube channels on narcissism yet. I do intend on looking into them and learning more and collaborating with other people, even if it's just to support them in what they're doing, because I've received some support from YouTube folk on narcissism, and kind of welcoming me into the fraternity, so to speak, or sorority. I don't know. The question that I get is, why do some people teach it from a very personal and sort of vitriolic point of view, which I'm not familiar with, but I think I can understand. And that is, if I were to come on here every day and basically say, oh, this person's a narcissist, I don't like them, this is what they did to me, you shouldn't like them either, and kind of tap into these emotions and go on and on about what they did to me and what they're going to do to you and all that kind of thing, versus me just sitting here talking about general behaviors and taking a more formal approach and possibly professional approach, and trying to not necessarily diagnose narcissists, but figure out what they're doing, explain their behavior, predict them, have a behavioral model, roughly, a psychological model that can determine what they're doing, why they're doing it, that really lends you some predictive power in a scientific way. Now, the first thing I want to say is, a lot of people say that and this is not for me to judge, by the way, what I do or somebody else does. That's not for me to judge. That's for you to judge. My job is to take what input that I can kind of comprehend, put together to make the information better for you. But I'm not really the one to say, oh, I'm doing it this way and this person's doing it that way. And I don't actually know. You're probably much more familiar with the YouTube landscape and the information landscape on narcissism on the internet and stuff than I am, believe it or not. This is still relatively new for me. So a lot of people say that I do it in a more formal, or it's not professional, but a more composed way, where I'm simply talking about problems with narcissists, what you can learn and what you need to do to handle them and improve your life, where you can learn about narcissists that will help you in the long run, not just a personal diary that I'm sharing with you. Now, I will say, I kind of contest that to some extent, that I'm not personal, because it's pretty personal. I kind of put little personal stories here and there, and I think some videos are more personal than others. But I can see that I would agree with for the most part, I'm not sitting here talking about my narcissist family members and other people I think were narcissists and what they did to me and all that kind of thing. I am trying to generalize it so that you can benefit from it by understanding them. So I'm not really against a personal approach, but it kind of raises, naturally, moral questions. I've talked about this before, which is, do we treat narcissists as human? And the answer is yes and no. And that is that we regard and respect them as people. But when we're interacting with them, and in particular we're trying to protect ourselves from them, we have a conception in our minds that they are not people, because they really don't behave like other people. They have a very different, for whatever reason, if you want to say something's gotten a hold of them, they're the total beck and call of this problem, and they can't do anything about it, and they're very destructive, so you have to, that always comes first. That's true. But also, to some, there are other people who are like that anyway, who aren't narcissists. So some people consider, where you listen to their words, but then you watch their actions, you see the huge chasm there, the huge divide, the huge contradiction. That can be the case with anybody. It doesn't have to just be narcissists. But in particular with narcissists, it's always the case. And no matter how you look at it, mechanically, that's the way you have to approach it in order to protect yourself and be really the smartest you can possibly be in handling them. The most efficient is with that conception that respect them as people. Yes, they're human beings, just like you and I, but there are different rules in their heads. They don't follow the same rules. They don't think the same way. It's a different dynamic. It's a different relationship. That exploitative relationship they're going to try to instill in you and foster in you. Those are too good of words. That's like nourishment or something. It's not nourishment. It's all bad. But even like right there, it's all bad. I say things like that. That's a little bit personal. It's a little bit judgmental. I'm not trying to say that narcissists do bad things. Are they all bad people? Well, insofar as they destroy your life, if you think that's a bad thing, it's a bad thing. I'll let you be the judge. But sometimes I do maybe encroach a little bit for purposes of safety, like in the dehumanizing aspect, because that is kind of dehumanizing the way I described him. But I do it because I am so certain that respect them. That's good for you, but don't fall into it. That's the worst thing you could possibly do. They're not going to be able to change. There's nothing you can do. Don't make, let's say they're broken people. Don't, and I don't mean that as an insult, don't fall into that thinking that, well, you're not worthy of happiness. They're going to make you feel that way, but you are worthy of happiness. Don't believe that you aren't. That's just a greater cost, again, on human well-being. You're just destroying yourself. You're just causing more harm by hurting yourself. And some people might take offense to that. It seems to me the majority don't. It seems like you don't for the most part, but some people do. And it's relevant in as much as it informs my mission of teaching you and as many others as possible about narcissism, so that this thing that you're going to probably encounter in your life, especially if you're predisposed to it, and you're, as I've said, apt to falling in with narcissists and being taken in by their tricks and their illusions, then this, I think, can be enormously beneficial to you, and that's who I'm talking to. So who cares if I offend other people? Well, I kind of agree with that. I don't think I have to offend anybody, but you're going to offend some people, and if you're saying anything worthwhile, you're going to offend some people. So in that way, it's good sometimes from an entrepreneurial and any kind of endeavor point of view, that if you're offending some people, you're saying something. You're not just coming in and saying, hey, here's my number, I'm the same, I'm number 267, I'm the same as this other person. I'm going to say the same thing, I'm going to act like I'm different, but I'm not. I'm just doing the same thing. Everybody's like, okay, nobody pays attention, nobody cares, nobody benefits from it, you move on, you're forgotten, it never happened. And that's the last thing you want when you're trying to create change in people and influence people and call people to action and get them excited about something or get them into improving themselves. You want to create not necessarily a fuss, but a stir, a change, something in them. And you do that by connecting with them on a very deep level, and sometimes that requires things that, powerful messages that can offend other people because they carry weight. There's a real statement to it, and it may challenge other worldviews. It may challenge other identities and self-images and of a lot of other people. But I think it's worthwhile if I'm reaching you and I'm helping you and you agree. So let's get back to the original issue. This is such a long-winded video, but it's a complicated subject, and that is, how do you approach teaching narcissism? Is there one way or a better way? Well, I would argue that you can't remove the personal aspect of it. You can try to reach towards a more professional image and professional approach, but with narcissism, in order to understand narcissists, in order to get into the kind of stuff that I'm teaching you and use it to improve your life, you have to experience them. And by the way, I'm going to guess that you're here not because you were interested in the videos, said narcissist, I wonder what a narcissist is. I wonder what those people are. Went out and found narcissists or narcissistic people to abuse you so you could learn about all the terrible pain you can go through to kind of get inside their head and then use it to improve your life. I'm guessing, and then you came here and went, oh, this stuff is relevant. I don't think that's how it happened. Probably it's because you came across a narcissist or narcissists, and you were puzzled and confused and hurt and damaged, and it was very impactful on your life, possibly formative. Possibly at a very, very young age. You could have grown up with it like I did. You could have come across it later. You could have had something that sort of paralleled it, or something that was kind of tangential to narcissism, but so you have some kind of familiarity with it, and so when you learn about narcissism, you're like, oh, this is kind of more comprehensive. This sort of explains what I've experienced in the past. I'm going to guess that's how you came here. Well, the personal part you can't really remove. It's definitely I think the more potent part of teaching narcissism and the interest in narcissism and the desire to learn more about it than the formal part. I'm not gonna draw you in by reading to you a textbook, a very dry definition of narcissism, what it is, and how to look out for it. It's not going to matter. You've never felt, you don't have anything wrapped up in it. You don't have any personal interest in it. It doesn't mean anything for your life. There's no benefit that you can readily glean from that kind of effort. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't use that in teaching it. I think it's more useful in informing people. I don't want to call it professional, the more formal way of teaching it, because that's the only way to really generalize it, so that people understand it. You have to take a little bit of a dry approach, which maybe sometimes I'm guilty of doing, and maybe it's somewhat boring. I just find that's the easiest way to do it. And in particular, you want to feel your emotions. You want to have that personal part. You want to be in touch with that personal part of it, the part that connects you to narcissism, which is how they made you feel in your experience of it. But you don't want to be so wrapped up in it when you're trying to understand how to move beyond them, because you need to get in touch with your emotions, and your emotions won't betray you. They've been informing you all along, so it is a problem of listening to them. That's really what you have to do. But there's a logical process to it that you may not know, and you still need information, whether it's dry or not. Now, I think if it's maybe not dry, but if it's just straight from me and I'm telling you what they do and what to expect and all that kind of thing, then I think that kind of couples well with the emotional process of growing out of them. You need something that's kind of an anchor, that's a cornerstone and something solid to hang on to, because you don't have it when you're around them, and the emotions can guide you, or really the emotions drive you, and then the information can guide you. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. So they're both useful. And so in my mission, I try to want to do both and have you connect to that personal part, but then have the real information where, look, we understand that there are natural laws in place in the world that we live in, somewhere that trickles down into behavior. And narcissists do have kind of a behavioral framework that they're going to adhere to, that's going to govern their actions and direct what they do. And so if you can figure that out and pick it apart, and it has to do with emotions, so there's the personal part of it again, it's going to help you. It's going to help you recognize them. It's going to help you direct what you need to do in moving forward. And so both of them are absolutely crucial. It's also crucial that you stay in touch with those emotions, because the narcissist wants to stamp them out. That's why you don't want to avoid it in your understanding of them, because first of all, it's all emotional for them. What they do to you is emotional, so you have to understand that process and feel it to understand how they're hurting you, and be able to stop it, become stronger than before. Because if you don't just want to get away from them, you can get away from them, but you're trying to improve, trying to make it so that that part of you that allowed them in the first place, that doesn't happen again. You can improve it. You can heal. You can do better than before you ever met them. So I'm not against anybody who is really adamant on telling their personal story and even getting emotional about it. That might be a way to connect people. I'm not against a drier approach. Maybe they can be used together. I guess that's what I'm kind of trying to do. And if we recognize that they're both, those two approaches are linked, because narcissism, it's the narcissists themselves kind of connect that. They aren't just logical beings, as they try to pretend to be, that are going about figuring things out rationally, and you have no substance or say in the matter whatsoever. That just isn't true. That's an illusion. The idea that their emotions don't affect them, and that your emotions are affecting you, and you need to be more like them. That's an illusion. You know that. I know that. There's that connection there. They can be deconstructed logically, but you have to start from the emotional basis. It doesn't just come out of nowhere. Okay, what they're feeling, how they're interpreting things, where they are in the world, how they relate to the world, that's everything. And when you start from there, that's a great starting point. But you can build a logical model from that. You can start to figure out what's actually going to work in alleviating the problems you're going to have when you're around them. You can't just, to have it out with them emotionally and to fight them emotionally is not sufficient. That's going to open you up to all kinds of things, because that's what they exploit. But those emotions can then be used to construct a model, even if just in your head, not down on paper necessarily, that is accurate, that describes their behavior in a very comprehensive way, and that then you can use to understand the situation and resolve a lot of the conflicts you're going to experience inevitably with them. It's all about conflict and contradiction and internal issues that are projected onto others. So they really do go hand in hand. And the narcissist kind of helps along with that. In that experience, in the initial emotional experience. Anyway, I'm talking too much. I hope you like this video. Like it if you do. Share it with somebody you think might benefit from it. Comment in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.